delighted to be here. My name is Tej Singh Hazra, and I am in the presence of phenomenal practitioners here. And so I'd like to start, first of all, by doing some brief introductions. And also, just to make things interesting as well, I'm going to ask my panelists to share something about them, and you'll understand why in just a moment. So just by way of some background for myself, my name is Tej. I'm based here in Toronto, in Canada. English by birth, Canadian by choice, which is why you can probably pick up on the accent. I've been in the field of diversity, equity, and inclusion for 18 years. I've had the high honor of leading the offices of DE&I for IBM, HSBC Bank, Bank of Montreal, and most recently, the last 5 years in professional services and consulting as I transition out of consulting and partnering and working with Diversio. So a big thank you to Diversio for inviting me to be part of this panel. And I'm going to share with you my superpowers, and I've asked each of the panelists to also share their superpowers. So just bear with me one second. So my superpowers, I would say, are vulnerability and empathy. And I use them daily. There are instances where I'm reminded to use, I could do a better job, but I like to think that's how I show up there as well. So I'm going to first introduce the panelists, and as I do each introduction, I'm going to pause and ask for the panelists to share with us their superpowers. So let's start first with Jen Reynolds, who goes by the pronouns of she, her. Jen is the Vice President of Equity, Diversity and Inclusion for the CPA of Ontario. As the Vice President of EDI and Partnerships, Jen is the strategic leader behind CPA Ontario's initiatives, policies, and programs aimed to make the accounting profession a more diverse, inclusive, and equitable environment. No mean feat. She is a CPA herself and proud to work on behalf of the 100,000 CPA members and the 20,000 CPA students across the province of Ontario. Jen has over a decade of valuable experience from professional services and industry, having previously worked at KPMG, Deloitte, and MLSE Entertainment. So, Jen, welcome. And if you can, please share with us your superpowers.
Yes, a great question. I would say my superpower is remembering names and faces. I'm very good with that. I meet someone once and I can, pinpoint to where I met them. So definitely good in a professional sense, but also in a personal sense too. When you're watching like a TV or like a movie and you're like, oh, where was that actor from? I can pinpoint it right away. So really good skill for a trivia team as well. So always here to play trivia. And I'm joining here from Treaty 13 territory on the lands now called Toronto. So pleasure to live and work on these lands. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen, and thank you for sharing that as well. I remember those days as a Gen X. I could remember where I could pinpoint, but life catches up. So welcome, and thank you for sharing your superpowers there as well. Next, I have the high honor as well of introducing Dr. Roselle Gonzalez. Her preferred pronouns are she and her. Roselle is the managing director and the head of inclusion and reconciliation at ATB Financial. An immigrant settler to Turtle Island, Roselle is the head of inclusion and reconciliation at ATB Financial based in Alberta in Canada. Roselle was named one of Edmonton's top 40 under 40 in 2022 for her work in the field of equity and inclusion, which is underpinned by 10 plus years of working and teaching in these areas within diverse sectors, including social services, consulting, and post-secondary education. In 2023, Roselle published her first book, very exciting time for Roselle, a memoir entitled The Ordinary Turned Precious, A Quest for Belonging. What a beautiful title, which has since gone on to become an Amazon bestseller. Roselle holds a master's degree from the University of Toronto in Gender and Sexual Diversity Studies and religious studies, and earned her PhD at the University of Calgary, great academic institution, in the ethnographic study of transnational immigrant identity, Canadian multiculturalism, and intersectionality. Roselle serves on the board of governors at Curling Canada and sits on the Global DE&I Council at Boston College Center for Corporate Citizenship. Welcome, Roselle. Good to see you. And if you can, Roselle, can you share with us and the panel your superpowers?
Thanks, Tej, and good to see you. Good to be on this panel. That's a great opening question. One of my superpowers, I would say, is I'm really good at patterns. I'm really good at picking up patterns in communication and information in people, and it has served me well in building good relationships. So I'd say that's a good superpower for me.
I love
Although
that.
I'm quite envious of Jennifer's superpower of remembering faces and names.
Same.
Very much so. I think we all are. We're all envious there as well. Okay, thank you for sharing that, Roselle. The patterns piece, and I think in our work as well, I think that that really does serve to to be entwined in the work that we do there as well. And Jen, also as you talk about names and faces, I know with 100,000 members and 20,000 students, that's probably tested every once in a while. So thank you for that. Okay, now let's move on to Christina Esposito. Christina, whose preferred pronouns are she, her. Christina is the marketing director for Tundra Technical Solutions. Christina is with Tundra Technical Solutions, where she has transformed the company's talent attraction and diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging efforts. Over her 6 years with Tundra, she has led initiatives that boosted LinkedIn followers by 40% year over year. Wow. And achieved a post engagement rate of goodness, almost 294% higher than Tundra's competitors. Big applause there as well. Christina is especially proud of creating Tundra's Women in STEM mentorship program, which has mentored hundreds of students and invested over $450,000 in scholarships and mentorships since 2019. Her leadership has earned Tundra accolades like LinkedIn's Diversity Champion Award and Diversio's Workplace Impact in 2023, showcasing her belief in the power of diverse talent strategies and business success. So welcome, Christina. And if you can, we'd love to hear your superpowers.
For sure. Thank you so much, Tej. I would say my superpower is thinking outside the box. I think there's a lot of change happening in the industry right now, and being able to hold two separate ideas in one's mind and create something completely new, and experiencing things that are boundless and initiating those boundless thoughts, I think is my superpower.
Out of the box, and that's so important. I think it's equally important that you try and do that on a daily basis there as well, because every day, especially in our world, is going to be different, and having to think outside the box, that's a forced habit, right? That critical thinking and that forced habit, and not getting into that sort of like those same sort of channels on a daily basis. It needs to be intentional. So thank you for sharing that, Christina, and welcome. And lastly, our last, but no means our least panelist is Vivian Santora. Vivian, whose preferred pronouns are she and her, is the Managing Director of Inclusive Diversity and ESG at Alvarez & Marsal. Vivian is based in New York, and she brings more than 25 years of experience in nonprofit, politics, and government affairs, serving in senior management and executive positions with a deep commitment to and focus on advancing equality and social justice. Vivian serves on the global, EMEA, and US executive committees for the practice, and leads the group's internal and external inclusive diversity efforts. She is also supporting TAG's US ESG advisory practice, Under her leadership, the organization has received the Diversio Impact Award consecutively in 2022 and 2023. Prior to joining A&M, Vivian served as president and CEO of Power Play in New York City, a nonprofit dedicated to advancing the lives of girls and gender non-conforming youth through sports. And over 90% of participants are girls of color, primarily Black and Latinx from low-income neighborhoods. What an incredible bio there. So Vivian, welcome. It's lovely to have you here from the US there as well. Vivian, if you can, we'd love to hear your superpowers.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I love this summit. Look forward to it every year. I think that I would say like my vulnerability and empathy has served me very well in every aspect of my career, sort of all the thread that pulled it through. How I worked with donors in the past when I was raising money in politics, how I cared for the team and the girls in my program at Power Play, and certainly in the work that I'm doing now within ESG and DEI at A&M and that internal effort. I think, it's really important to have those, be transparent and have those skills to support your team and have them trust you in this process.
So true, Vivian. I think the transparency, the empathy, the vulnerability, that just goes to build trust. And as we all know, all 181 of us on this call, on this panel, but being part of this panel this morning, without trust, our work is almost impossible. It is literally like it becomes performative if we don't truly have the trust, because we need action around the words that are shared and the buy-ins that our leaders and hopefully and employees see that we share with that we bring to them as well. So first of all, disclaimer here, this Gen X, and as you can probably see, I've been looking down at my notes over here. Please, if you forgive me for that, I would appreciate that. But I'm going to try and not go off script too much here. But what I will ask is to the participants and the audience, if you have any questions during the actual panel itself, please put that in the Zoom chat session, which is being monitored for us. And we'll do our very best to address them at the end of the panel itself. Okay. All right. So I've already seen some great comments in there already. So let's. I know you're not shy, so let's keep that going there as well. Okay. So let's start with an opening question, and this question is really to everyone in the panel here as well. I don't think any of us can deny the fact that there's been a societal shift away from DE&I and DE&I terminology itself. To the panel, how have you seen the societal shift impact your workplace and your DE&I efforts? Do any of you have any case studies coming to mind that illustrate the impact of this shift, good or bad, and the impact that it can have on employee engagement and even the business itself? So I'll put that out there to anybody on the panel.
I could speak to the terminology here, Tej. So
thank you, Christina.
Yeah, we definitely have seen a shift, I think, an overcorrection, if you will. A few years ago, there was a politically charged movement that really brought forward a call for change. And I think some businesses felt the need to really full force go into the DE&I terminology, and a lot of underrepresented communities felt maybe called out or trapped in this box. And personally, from our organization, we've done a great job of sort of rebranding DE&IB in a way that's not just terminology. It's action, it's initiatives. For example, putting forward our DE&IB Council and investing in those initiatives like Truth and Reconciliation Day or Pride Month, and celebrating that across the organization. I think people recognize action more than they recognize backwards. And I think that's where our strategy comes in. And since then, we've seen 10% to 15% retention in all of our associate groups just because of those initiatives.
I love stats like that as there as well. It almost reminds me of that quote, work hard in silence, let success make the noise. I think there. Anybody else?
I can build on what Christina shared there, and I'm 100% aligned with what you expressed, Christina. One thing that I will say is that the work of inclusion and some of the patterns that we have seen over time is that change always comes with an equal and opposite reaction, right? And so if you look historically to, say, for example, in the United States, when we had the abolition of enslavement of Black people, you then found that the laws were changed to create the Jim Crow movement. And so there's always going to be resistance to cultural shifts and societal change that demand justice and equality for a broader set of human beings. And so this backlash or this change or this resistance is nothing new. And so one of the things that I think, Christina pointed to was this idea that organizations that jumped in with both feet, perhaps more performatively, have seen that resistance perhaps more acutely because it didn't have a stronger or more embedded foundation. At ATB Financial, one of the things that we have been really proud of doing is rather than making some of those performative or surface level changes, the work of inclusion was embedded into our programs and processes. And one example that I really am proud of, but these changes are long-term. These changes are slow burning, right? They aren't, we'll put up a flashy sign and that changes how we think about things. And so a few years ago, we paid attention to our data. It suggested to us that folks from a particular equity-seeking group were not experiencing our culture at the same level of thriving as their counterparts. And when in consultation with that equity-seeking group, we came to understand that it's because there was an inequity of access to certain benefits within our comprehensive benefits package. And we actually worked with our benefits partners and our compensation partners and our external benefits providers. It took us 2 years to shape something that was actually first in Alberta to release to our team members. We were able to release more inclusive benefits that recognize the needs of a broader subset of our team members. Wouldn't you know it, within the next year, we saw a 20 percentage point jump in the thriving sentiment of that equity team member network, right? And that really speaks to the fact that when you take the time to listen and then implement through action into the processes that you have, and it doesn't always have to be about, the celebrations or the specific days, it's that and actually taking the time to implement policies. Because even if corporations, further down the line, perhaps decide that there isn't funding for inclusion work specifically as a named priority, that work is still then embedded through our benefits program, through our talent mobility program, because embedding it ensures that there is sustainability for the long run.
I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's policies, process, and procedures that move us forward, right? If you don't mind, I may just take a little different angle on this question because I sit and focus on DEI, but also ESG. We aren't just seeing headwinds on DEI terminology, but also ESG, particularly in the US. But sort of words of caution for our clients is that, moving away from these initiatives can really lead to reputational risk, right? The perception of your firm or your company, if the perception is that you're going backwards, that's a real damage to your brand and potentially even your stakeholder trust, right? And I would argue you will definitely have challenges attracting and retaining talent, especially as, Gen Z comes into the fold in record numbers as candidates, and they, increasingly, place a high premium on inclusion and workplace culture, as well as, balance and mental health and all of those other, key indicators. But, from where I sit, PE firms or corporates, face a very heightened risk if they deprioritize DEI. And even if they want to call it something different, workforce readiness, future readiness, which I believe it really is, it could diminish even value creation for them.
Thank you. And this was just the warm-up question. And
yeah.
I mean, you threw case studies, you threw data at me and stats at me, real experience ATB. Roselle, I know exactly what you're referring to. And the courage and the forward sort of like motion of your president, led by the CEO and the leadership team in addressing that. It's almost like it should be a white paper in itself, Roselle, an opportunity there as well. So thank you very much for sharing that. So let's move on to the first actual question in itself, and this question is to Jen from CPA Ontario. And in your world, Jen, the accounting and finance professions have seen significant changes in what employees value from their careers. Right. So in your role at CPA Ontario, how do you see expectations for Gen X aspiring CPAs differ from those of previous generations?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Tej. And Vivian gave a great segue here in terms of those changing workplace expectations. And we've all seen a tremendous shift over the past 5 years. Very few of us are in the same role that we were 5 years ago, let alone working in the same way. So really, we're seeing that shift within what aspiring CPAs want to do with their designation, and the work that we're doing across the board is really working to advocate for the different role that CPAs can play. So we're hearing from Gen Z that they want to make an impact, and today's CPA is much different than your old uncle as a number cruncher. So what we're working to do is to empower CPAs to be at the forefront of ESG. There's a huge need, as mentioned, to get rid of that greenwashing, and many of us are doing reporting now on ED&I metrics. So CPAs can really be at the forefront of that to provide that trust and those governance and the reporting models there. So really working to advocate for the role that CPAs play in that, and really open up their eyes to those possibilities. And the second area of opportunity that we really see for CPAs to make an impact is on AI. So not a day goes by that I don't hear a different use case for AI, and especially as it comes down to some of the kind of like old financial close processes, and really those tedious tasks that many people think is an accountant. But I would say that there is a high risk that AI is going to take over some of those accounting entry-level jobs, but I see that as a good thing, because that allows the opportunity for us to embrace AI. And the difference that we're going to see is those people that embrace it and then empower to make better business decisions, and ultimately are able to spend their time making an impact versus doing the regular day to day. So really, we're seeing these huge changing winds in our broader industry, and my work is to be able to open the eyes of our future CPAs to what a career can be for them.
Thank you, Jen. That's an excellent example of thinking outside the box and meeting people where they are, but not leaving them there, in terms of how you're using AI there as well, for the betterment of the profession, but also for the people there. So thank you for sharing that. Let's just dig a little deeper there as well. We know that CPA Ontario has been working to increase Black and Indigenous representation within your organization, within the profession itself, which we all know has historically faced unique systemic barriers. Can you talk about some of the unique barriers faced and what you've done to address these barriers, and what progress have you seen so far in diversifying your profession?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm going to focus in on Indigenous representation, which is especially top of mind now for us here in Canada, approaching our National Day for Truth and Reconciliation on September 30th. So speaking from what I have heard, I'm a descendant of European settlers here, so this is not my own experience, but what I have heard. So we have conducted a national research study that we were able to chat with aspiring Indigenous CPAs at all parts of their journey to get a better understanding of what those barriers are. And it really comes down to the impact of the broader social bias, which is from the colonial legacy that we have here across Canada. So what we've been able to understand from these discussions is that some Indigenous students, they feel that they would have to leave their community, leave their identity of who they are to be able to relocate to an area to go to post-secondary. So that feeling of social isolation, being the one and only, and really not being able to bring their learning and education as a CPA back to their home. So what we've been doing is we've created a educational grant, and this is much more than tuition. We do know that finance can be a barrier. So this educational grant is all encompassing to, yes, be able to cover some of those financial aspects as well, but it's really about creating those communities of support and network to be able to help these students across every stage of their journey towards becoming a CPA. So I know some of our other panelists do work within the reconciliation space as well. So I'm sure they have comments as well from their professional experience.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Jen. And talk about walking the talk, right? Not just talking it. So kudos to CPA Ontario and the educational grants there as well. Great example there as well. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. And the next question is actually for Roselle, and it's around balancing inclusion and reconciliation. So Roselle, as you lead both inclusion and reconciliations efforts at Alberta Treasury Board, how do you align these two areas to create a holistic approach that benefits both Indigenous and non-Indigenous employees at ATB Financial?
It's a great question, Tej. And you know what I will say is that while the two portfolios of inclusion and reconciliation sit side by side, and that there is a healthy Venn diagram between those two spaces, there is also a significant sort of divergence in needs and priorities of those two strategic portfolios. Because one, for me as an inclusion practitioner, but also as an immigrant settler, it made very little sense for us to think about inclusion without keeping reconciliation at the heart of it, keeping relationship with Indigenous communities and peoples at the center of inclusion. And oftentimes those two conversations are bifurcated or actually quite siloed from one another. So where we've seen real, cohesive and integrated approaches has been in things like our cultural awareness training, has been in things like the Indigenous Canada course through the University of Alberta that we have, created access to all 5,000 of our team members to have, and we've seen a huge uptick on. We also host, listening and learning circles where our Indigenous team member network and non-Indigenous team members have the opportunity to discuss some of the learnings that come out from that and really sit and process through some of the discomfort, but take it beyond the theory and take it beyond some of those lessons into how does this actually impact the roles that we do when it comes to, truth and reconciliation as a standalone portfolio and with strategic deliverables. Truth is at the heart of it. And so that's where the cultural awareness training really comes in. But we also have a call to action in number 92 of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's report. And that really creates for us a framework on how ATB is committed to being a good treaty partner, on committing to those three components of call number 92 for corporations, one of that, as a financial institution, is really accessing knowledge around, how do Indigenous peoples and communities have access to capital? That is one of the, massive ways in which the currently held Indian Act still creates barriers to inclusion. And those are systemic ways in which Indigenous peoples and communities do not always have a parallel within the inclusion space, which has a broader mandate beyond Indigenous inclusion. And so focusing on the parallel ways in the spaces of, supplier vendor diversity, in the spaces of talent mobility, in the spaces of benefits and compensation, those are ways in which we can see some integration between Indigenous and non-Indigenous in the space of inclusion. And it's also really vital for us to create the opportunity for the two portfolios to have their own breathing room, considering that, Indigenous communities, peoples, team members have specific barriers that aren't necessarily seen paralleled outside of that field of work. And so those are ways in which we've seen both integration and perhaps also some specific focus in those different areas.
What a great set of examples and tangible examples as well, and ideas hopefully that we can all take and incorporate into there. So thank you very much for that. Staying with you there, Roselle. So in terms of economic turbulence, I don't think there's anyone on this call or in this session here that hasn't been experiencing some of the economic turbulence and that within our professional and also in our personal lives there as well. So during economic uncertainty, DE&I initiatives and reconciliation efforts have often faced cuts and are susceptible to deprioritization. So Roselle, how can we successfully make a business case for DE&I during these times, such as layoffs or restructuring or cost-cutting phases? Has there been any specific instances where ATB Financial successfully kept these initiatives and how it benefited the organization?
What a fantastic question. And I think it builds on, that first opening question that the panel addressed as well. One thing I will say that we have seen at ATB, and research substantiates this repeatedly, is that DEI, in fact, boosts bottom lines. It boosts performance. It boosts, economic growth and all the rest. So it's a bit of a fallacy built on bias to suggest that those initiatives need to be cut in the times of economic hardships. So the business case for DEI almost feels like the proof that's in the pudding, in that in good times, we've taken the opportunity to really integrate and weave inclusion as a priority, not just of what we do, but how we do it. And so in that way, even if you remove the label of inclusion on something, our products and processes have still been impacted by some of the bias mitigation that we have taken to the entire system. That's one way in which I think inclusion survives some of those waves that come with, changing dynamics. The other thing that I'm really proud of at ATB Financial is that we have, as you mentioned, Tej, really exceptional leadership all the way from our board, through our executive leadership, to the point where our board of directors was the initial sort of champion of this work 10, 15 years ago. We have a balanced board in terms of gender. We have balance of equity gender-wise all through our system. And that has really created for us a recognition that this isn't just about performativity. This is about creating systems that reflect the system we wish to have. And one of our executives recently said, when we were talking about the work, and in fact, ATB is up for certification for our PAIR certification. So that's Partnership Accreditation in Indigenous Relations through the Canadian Council for Indigenous Businesses. And one of our executives said, this isn't added work, this is the work. Right. And so how we bring change to society is through our acumen in the financial service sector. But the actual work that we do as a purpose-driven organization is to serve the communities that trust us. And so that includes all of the equity-serving community or equity-seeking communities that make up the fabric of our clients and communities at ATB.
Wow, thank you, Roselle. I actually noted that one down, and with your permission, I'm going to take artistic license to use that if I can. This is not added work. This is the work. I love that, and talk about rhythmic sort of adaptation and integration of inclusion into all the work that ATB do, both internally, but also I know for your clients and your customers and the communities, is it's apparent there as well in evidence. So thank you very much for that, Roselle. Okay, let's move on to Christina, who's with Tundra Technical Solutions there as well, specifically around inclusion in a high turnover industry and high stress environment. I think, Christina, you're nodding there as you're giving me that, I live and breathe this as well. So you're in a high stress, high fast moving tech sector, known for pressure, high turnover rates, and where retention is critical, but difficult. And we all know how retention and turnover impacts the bottom line there as well. So, Christina, the question for you is, how do you support diverse employees to thrive in the environment that I've just described?
You're absolutely right, Tej. Of course, as everyone knows, tech is a very volatile industry, and especially so in these economic times. Tech is something that is fast moving and forever changing. And I think a lot of companies experience this retention issue. For us, what we started doing is really started to listen. And what that means is surveying our associates as well as our clients to understand what do they want to see in their programs. And I think a lot of the times businesses think they know what associates want from their wellness programs or from their benefits programs, but I think it's so crucial to survey that audience and ask. And that's what we did. And from that point, we implemented a few really special programs, one of them being our DE&IB Council, as well as some ERG groups to speak to specific audiences. We also implemented our Thrive in Wellness program, which gives access to mental health, specifically mental health care at half the cost. So we know that finance and availability and accessibility is huge for our audience, and we wanted to make that accessible. Another great thing that we have shown improvement on retention is our Thrive in Leadership program. And I personally have been very lucky to be part of this program here at Tundra. It's basically a one-to-one coaching program where you're able to get in front of a coach, a wellness and career coach that basically helps support you through your career at Tundra. And this we've seen fabulous results from 20 to 30% retention in that group alone. Okay. And leaders set the tone for the rest of the organization. And I think that's really where we saw that difference. When you start from that point and it trickles downwards, that's when you start to see the inspiration kind of bubble up in the rest of the associates there. So there have been a lot of amazing opportunities here at Tundra to get involved, but also we listened and we actioned what everyone wanted to see and had great improvements.
I love that. And you kind of answered the second question I had there is, delving a little deeper, and you've talked so eloquently about and realistically about how, what does this look and feel like there as well. But, just an, additional question in terms of the leaders in the organization, do they see the value in this work, in these program, this very relevant program that Tundra invested in?
Yeah, so we actually ensured that the entire organization was aware that we were running this program. And it was actually a program exclusive to top performers, 20 top performers across the organization. What that ensured was that, look, if you are willing to get yourself to a point of high performance, that's how we'll get you into this program. And it created that inspiration. So the leaders themselves knew that it took the work that they put in for years and years for them to be able to even get a part of this exclusive program. So they feel valued as employees. Their work is known, it's seen, and the whole of the organization has been able to review and watch them grow. For the leaders themselves, I mean, I personally can speak to the benefits of this coaching program. There's been a lot of communication value. There's been a lot of executive presence that has been taught in this program, which I think, especially for women and one who is a younger one in the boardroom, it can be really hard for a young woman to breach that boardroom scene and be heard. And the words used and the choice of words allow us to instead be a voice in that boardroom. And I think our coaches really implemented that in all of their coaching, but also personalized it. And again, your employees, they want to be seen and they want to be heard. And if you can specialize and tailor trainings towards them or your top performers, they will pay dividends.
Very much so. I love that. I mean, let's be honest here. Performative is having a seat at the table. Inclusion is having a voice. Right. It's right. So it's being invited and feeling safe and welcomed and encouraged to have a voice there as well.
Yeah, the psychological safety that is fostered through these programs is so important. And the fact that you can be okay to fail in a safe environment is really just improving the ability for us to be innovative. And I think that's what it takes to create resilience, but also ensure that retention is possible, right? No one wants to come to work and think, oh, it's the same old every day. No, we want you to fail. We want you to see what risks you can take so that we can improve and be the first at the game.
I love that. Thank you so much, Christina. I appreciate that. We appreciate that as well. So let's move on to Vivian now. Vivian, you've been patiently waiting here. So thank you. Yeah, I mean, using surveys, and you know, it's quite right that we talk about surveys in this forum over here. Using surveys to inform DE&I initiatives and ESG goals. Mm-hmm. So the question for you is Vivian, is how do you ensure DEI remains a key part of the conversation during economic downturns or restructuring efforts?
Yeah.
And can you share examples?
Yeah, we certainly, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, you know, is you need to incorporate DEI into your organizational core values, right? It needs to be part of your business strategy. For Global Tag, it's part of our growth strategy. Other folks have mentioned this, you know, it needs to be authentic, right? People will see through the check the box exercise and the platitudes. It's the same advice as, again, I would give our clients, right? It doesn't matter if you're a PE firm, a portco, or corporation. But, you know, for A&M, inclusive diversity is one of our 6 core values for the firm, full stop, no matter where you are on the globe. Second, you need to ensure that there's buy-in from leadership. Someone else mentioned this a little bit earlier, right? You know, their support is absolutely critical. They need to model behaviors of inclusion. So, you know, you may not get all dimensions, but are they empathetic? Do they demonstrate cultural awareness or even cultural curiosity, right? We're not expecting perfection, but the commitment from leadership provides permission for everyone else, right, in the organization. And again, you know, you keep hearing everyone talk about psychological safety. I mean, that's really critical if you're going to move this work forward, right? And so emphasis on inclusive behaviors will increase morale, you know, better decision-making, goes back to retention of your talent, but ultimately you'll ensure, you know, greater resilience for your business, you know, whatever industry that might be.
I love that, Vivian, in terms of embedding it. So now, can you share examples with us on how employee survey data led to people-focused initiatives during the challenging times that we're in or have been in?
I would say challenging times or not challenging times, right? I think it's critical to survey your people. So within Global Tag, our goal has always been to hold ourselves accountable. We don't have what was I going to say? I'll come back to it. But, like we want to make sure we don't have quotas was the word I was going to say, so we need to know that we're still moving the needle, and surveys allow us to do this. So we, from these surveys, working with Diversio, we also participate in a global firm-wide survey. But in Global Tag specifically, we have leveraged Diversio to really dig deeper into the metrics that we know inform inclusion. And we know we take those themes, we see where we have strengths, and we look at our pain points. And then internally, we've developed an equity change team. And that consists of individuals from across the practice representing different tenure, different geographies, different lived experiences, helping me analyze that data and help start, creating solutions to any pain points. And so specifically to answer your question about, like actual examples of what we've done, the survey has allowed us to enhance our parental leave policy in the US. Last year, we saw through the insights of the survey that we needed to do more to support and empower our LGBTQ plus teammates. And education and awareness is like foundational to that. So we launched an LGBTQ plus History Month campaign last year, partnered with a local LGBTQ plus history museum, raised money. So it was multifaceted, right? Again, not necessarily a check the box. We really wanted to educate, create awareness, and engage in the community and create action. We also established a wellness and balance committee looking at the results. And with that, a special focus on neurodiversity, which not only supported our people internally, but also laid the foundation for an actual offering that we're bringing to clients now in this space to support our ESG business.
Wow, thank you, Vivian. Again, I am just in awe of the tangibles that this panel has provided. I mean, talk about walking the talk here. I know, like, hopefully, like all the audience and people listening in here, we're all writing things down feverishly. So, Jen, just to let you know that there is actually a question and in specific to CPA that if you'd like to answer while we're on this part of this panel itself, you may want to take a look at that. Great, thank you very much. Thank you. And Vivian, you did touch on neurodiversity, and I just want to very quickly, as because we want to open it up to question and answers there as well. In terms of neurodiversity, any measurable outcomes around neurodiversity, because it's the popular topic right now. And so any tangible evidence or outcomes that you can share?
Well, certainly we're building out our neurodiversity initiative as we speak. We've been at this probably since earlier this year, but we also see it as a way to future-proof our workforce, right? While satisfying both the moral and the business imperative. But we know that organizations, can identify opportunities and threats with a more cognitive diverse team, right? With those, various profiles. But the data speaks for itself. Fortune 500 companies that have made neurodiversity a priority have reported like 90% employee retention. I think it was 28% higher revenues, 30% higher profit margins. I think 1.7 or 1.8 times more likely to be adaptive, innovative leader. So the stats back this up for sure in terms of an investment.
Oh my God, keep saying those stats. And if anyone still has naysayers or people that doubt this, having hard facts and tangible data and evidence, through surveys, through feedback, through conversations, through having leaders, constantly, reiterate statements like this isn't added work, this is the work, right? That's how you keep this front and center. That's how you keep the rhythm going here as well. So thank you for that, Vivian. Phenomenal work there as well. And so we're coming up to 10 minutes before the actual end of the panel itself. So if there are any Q&As that you have for the panel here, please put them into the chat and we'll try our very best to answer them here in the time that we have remaining. So
I'm happy to jump in and answer Martin's question here in the chat. The question here is, how do the CPA competencies align with E&I? Any future changes to amplify E&I among the competencies? So sounds like Martin is quite familiar with the CPA path here. So yes, our goal, we're looking to equip CPAs that can lead business and society forward. So there is a future expectation that our newer CPAs have a understanding of indigeneity and inclusion and the importance that has. So exactly how that is tested is to be determined, but it is, as we've all said on this panel, it is the new reality of business and is seen as a strategic imperative. So we're doing our work to make sure that our CPAs are at the forefront of that.
Great. Thank you for that, Jen. I appreciate that. So as you can see, there's a QR code that is safe to scan, and you can submit your questions there as well. I just want to, as we wait for our questions and to the support team, let me know if I should be reading anything at this point, or if we're opening the lines up. But I just, on the Indigenous piece there as well, and I know we've gone on about this on this topic quite a bit here, but for the right reasons. 2025 will mark 10 years since the report of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And the Indigenous peoples will be looking not at themselves, but at us in terms of what have we done to address the 94 recommendations that came through and came out. And introspection is a word that was that was shared with me by my teenager, actually, because he came across it during a lesson. So I Googled it because I really truly wanted to understand, what introspection meant, and it was a moment where I had to stop and process and reflect that 10 years down the line of the Commission's report, what have I actually done to address, primarily in my world, the recommendation number 92 here? We're all going to be accountable here. We are going to be accountable. So as if you think that we've over-indexed on the Indigenous communities or others or specific communities, it's because it's time. This is the time that we need to be talking. So we're we are actually at end here. We are actually at time, and I want to keep. Maybe we can go. There's one great other question: is how do you hold your leadership accountable when they might be slower to see the importance of the work? So I'll put that out to the panel, and that can be like our closing statement. So, and I think slower to see the importance is a very nice way. I think we all have a. So how do you help those leaders that are slower to appreciate?
Yeah, I can start kick this one off, Tej. I will say that there's two-pronged approach. One is, in the principles of change management, first you rely on your champions. You use them to create influence, to drive some of that organic change. And, you use your champions within those leadership spaces to converse with their peers, because some of that influence takes time, work, relation building, etc. But when you've hit a bit of a tipping point of maturity in the organization, something that we're really proud of having done at ATB is putting inclusion and reconciliation and its strategic priorities as part of the performance metrics that executives have to adhere to in order to show that they are performing to the standards that the organization wishes for them to do. And so that's the two-pronged approach. One's kind of the soft EQ approach, and one is a more quantitative and direct approach that speaks to the performance, the benefits, the compensation that executives are also motivated by.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, ultimately, the EQ and the bonus payouts as well. You cover all the bases there as well. So we're at time. To Christina, to Jennifer, to Vivian, to Roselle, heartfelt gratitude and thanks to those that were able to join us for this panel. We hope you took a lot away from this. I certainly did. I mean, I've got notes everywhere here, and I am forever grateful for Diversio hosting this and inviting us to be part of it. So we can move on to the next session, and we thank you very much for joining.